my circles, I don't often hear people talk about what they're spending money on when it comes to health. They should do like a GP Spotify Wrapped. They're like, you came in for the same presenting problem 10 times.
That shapes the kind of purpose of today's conversation, especially towards those, and I suppose more of our listener base, like some of the younger people that are jumping onto the podcast and having a listen, who kind of think, oh, there's nothing wrong with me at the minute. I don't need to go out and like kind of do anything. It's more kind of like to try and prompt you to think a little bit about how much you actually are investing in your own health. People love talking about how they spend money on cars, holidays, clothes, and everything in between. But what about spending money on your body? In today's episode, Maddie and I speak a little bit about our healthcare budgets for 2024 and what we're going to put our money towards in 2025 when it comes to our own personal health. We've been so thankful for how much support we've seen from our community, but we understand that a lot of the listeners, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, don't actually subscribe to the platforms themselves. We would love your support by getting you to subscribe to each of those channels so that we can continue to grow the podcast and bring you bigger and better episodes. Whilst both Maddie and I are healthcare practitioners, we understand that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to healthcare. Should you require any medical attention, please seek out your local healthcare practitioner.
We'd like to take a break from today's episode to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Drip Digital. They manage all of our audio and video editing as well as our social media marketing. Without them, the We Don't Know Yet podcast wouldn't be possible. So thank you again.
Well, I am excited for this chat.
So am I. I think this was a really interesting conversation that we kind of highlighted as something we think people would be interested to hear about.
Yeah. And I think you and I obviously have the bias of both being in the healthcare profession, both see the value of investing money in health for long-term health. How many times can I say health in one sentence? But I also feel like there are a lot of help seeking, nice play on words there.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's a really difficult conversation to have these days. I mean, me and you are both in positions now where we're trying to like set ourselves up financially for the future, right? And I think without getting political or too financial on the podcast, because we're not a financial podcast.
No.
And we're not financial advisors by any means.
No.
But without getting too like technical with it, I still think there needs to be a nice balance of like taking care of yourself and also saving money for such investments like a wedding.
Oh, yeah, like a wedding.
Or a house or a trip or something that kind of like fills your cup up. Because I think that stuff's really important too from the perspective of, if we look at health, like making sure that you're feeling like you're ticking some of the boxes that you want to tick in life too. So whilst, we talk about this topic today, I think it's also good to kind of allude to the fact that we're both feeling very privileged, in a privileged position that we can actually spend money on stuff like this.
Yeah.
Whereas like I'm completely aware that also there's another side to this discussion, which is
people might not have the accessibility to funds.
Accessibility, funding, financial position to actually get themselves in front of people that can kind of help them long term.
Yeah.
But as we're going to unpack, there's good reason to being on the front foot with some of this stuff too.
Yeah, and I think people love talking about, what they're spending money on, whether it be like handbags, obviously for women, I hate to generalize, but, cars, clothes, holidays, things like that. I don't think people often, I don't know about the circles that you run in, well, we run in similar circles, but in my circles, I don't often hear people talk about what they're spending money on when it comes to health. So I think it's good for you and I to unpack, what we spent our money on in the health space last year, what we're prioritizing this year, what we're cutting back on, and, what is like a non-negotiable for 2025.
Yeah, a little bit more, kind of like a recap episode almost again.
I know.
Different type of recap.
Different type.
But yes, let's break into it. Walk me through like 2024. What did you feel like you were kind of spending a bit of moolah on?
I had to go back through my bank accounts, as did you before, and sort of see what I had spent my money on. Majority of it was a psychologist, which I 100% stand by, and obviously we'll talk more about that soon, but I regularly see my psych. I think it's great. It's harder to fix what's broken, so I'm really big in investing in my mental health, also particularly working in mental health. I think that's extra important. With my SLAD ADHD, I do have to see the psychiatrist once a year, so that was in my healthcare spending last year. As well as, I think I saw the GP a couple of times, not too many times.
It's hard to gauge the GP sometimes. I feel like with like all the extras and things like that sometimes people go to, they can get a gauge on how many times they've been there. But The GP, you're kind of like, oh yeah, like sometimes you just see them quickly over the phone. Sometimes it's kind of like you don't really have a good ability to kind of recall your consults or your catch ups with them. Hey?
Yeah, they should do like a GP Spotify Wrapped. They're like,
What?
you came in for the same presenting problem 10 times.
Oh! They'd be like, this is your yearly recap.
You spent this much money. No.
Oh, people would just like,
don't
sink
make me
into their
sad.
seat. I don't.
I think I would have been to the GP maybe 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
I'm just totally guessing, but wouldn't have been too many times. As well as an osteopath. I
Wow.
saw an osteo 3 times off the top of my head.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very
nice.
cool.
Just dabbled.
Just dabbled
Sprinkled
in
it
the osteo.
in there, you know.
Look, I should have gone more. But that is something. Oh, actually, no, I won't get into that yet. We'll save it. We'll save it. But yeah, it was psychologist, psychiatrist, GP, osteo, and if we want to count it as well, obviously a gym membership on top of that too.
Nice.
Yes. So are we talking money?
Sure. Let's break into some of the spending for you for 2024. Then,
We're going to break into it and then I'll palm off to you.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
All right. Are we including gym? That's my question.
Look, this was one that I was also a little bit like, do we include it? But I think it's good to give people perspective on it too. And I mean, again, obviously we're in such a good position.
We are very privileged.
We are very privileged, but I think it's really good to place an emphasis on that aspect of it because I think physical activity plays such a big role.
Yeah.
People always come in and see me with the excuse of like, I have no time. I can't afford a gym membership.
Yeah.
But some gym memberships out there are actually like
Quite affordable.
And like, again, you don't have to be going every day to get the value in it. Like people who go from 0 movement to like a couple of days of movement a week.
Yeah.
That's like a massive step up for them.
Yeah. Even like I'm just reflecting on when Jack and I traveled last year and there were obviously a lot of backpackers who had traveled for half the year, if not more. And they just brought a yoga mat around with them and would just like, I don't know, look up YouTube or whatever exercises on their phone and just do bodyweight exercises.
Yeah, and I mean, I think as well, the biggest thing of like the running landscape at the minute is that you can run anywhere, you can move anywhere. So
I'm calling that's a fallacy though, because it's like, it's a free sport.
Yeah.
But it is fucking
it's
costly.
Mentally tolling.
But it's costly. Shoes,
True.
injuries, events, like.
True. But you got to remember, no one's kitting out like us, you know.
Yeah,
like
true. Maybe we're just.
No one's in their running era like us.
True.
Like not everyone is in the running era. So
that is true.
I feel like sometimes you can just go and pick up like a pair of Kayanos and just start somewhere.
That is
basic.
true. That is true.
You know, I think if you think about it in the grand scheme, I mean, at the end of the day, like going to somewhere like Anytime Fitness or Jets or one of those gyms that are
like
24/7, $17 a week. You're kind of thinking, right, like that across 12 months. There's my shoes.
True. That is very true.
Know? So like if it is you don't think you have the time to get, it's like, okay, we'll go get a pair of shoes and go do some running, something for free. Get started. But yeah, let's get your number on how much you spent. So for context, Maddie and I went through our private health kind of
claim history
because we were both really curious to see how much money do we actually spend on healthcare.
Look, in chronological order from like most to least, it was psychologist, gym, psychiatrist, GP. Oh no, sorry, scrap that. It was psychologist, gym, osteo, psychiatrist, GP.
Nice.
Yes, so we racked up a grand total, and this is it's a ballpark, right?
Yeah, good.
Around 5.5K. Which
nice.
Hurts me a
was
little
that
bit.
including your gym?
That was including the gym.
Nice,
yes.
Nice. Okay, so big key part there is including the gym.
Including the gym.
Yes. And for those that don't know, what gym do you go to?
I don't want anyone.
Yeah, you're right. No,
yeah.
but is
Actually,
it
I feel like I posted on my story last week.
And
or
I was
something.
about to say, I feel like we've definitely spoken about it before.
EMF.
But yeah, obviously a gym that's like little bit exy.
We do go to yeah. I think the gym culture, I don't know if it's a Sydney thing or a Shire thing. It's a little bit culty. It's not cheap, but health is wealth.
Health is wealth, but also like we choose to go to a gym like that for not just the
socials, social health.
Yeah, social health, but also like physical health and variety of different avenues that you can express that. So,
all right, what about you?
Well, mine, so across the year, so I was looking back on it, I was pretty basic. Actually, I forgot to add one more to my list of things that I saw last year. Mine was pretty basic though, in all honesty. So I saw the GP a handful of times. I had like a really random like it was like a foot infection thing that we were getting like really worried about. I was like, oh my God, this could be like
I forgot
bad.
about that.
Yeah, random. So I had to like randomly go into a GP. I didn't even know GPs were open on a Sunday, but I had to go and see a GP on a Sunday and just be like, hey, what is this?
My foot's on fire.
Help. But yeah, so I had like a random 1 or 2 appointments with a GP for like random things like that. But across the year, I saw dentists,
Yep.
osteo,
Yep.
and osteo was a big one in my
Osteo,
in my
saw
pool.
an osteo.
And for context, I did start up basketball again last year, like full on. So I was like all systems go. So when I say that I was seeing the osteo, like I was seeing it more to be on the front foot with the body.
Yep.
And hand in hand with that, I was also seeing massage therapist. And then I was seeing Elizabeth from the Dow as well. So I started seeing her on the back end of last year.
Yep. For anyone that doesn't know, Elizabeth at the Dow and the Dow, it's a Chinese medicine.
Chinese medicine, yes. Traditional Chinese medicine.
Yes, TCM.
So an acupuncturist. So I was seeing her on the back end of the year too, which was cool. But all up in like my allied health category, not including GP, because I roughly went maybe like 5 times to the GP, 4 times to the GP, but some of it was literally just like give them a buzz on the phone to get a referral for some bloods.
Right, gotcha.
So like I don't know if I mean I do count it. What, it's like $90 a pop for the GP, so $500.
Yeah, chuck it in.
Let's add the extra 500 on top. Let's just
Chuck it in, round up.
I'll round it up.
Add some GST.
There you go. Add some GST. So all up for the allied health, the GP, them in total was about 2,500.
Yep.
And then for the gym membership, it was about 3,000 all up. So roughly the same, about 5.5.
Yep. Okay.
5.5. So pretty on the money.
Okay.
And I don't know, we didn't actually get any stats of what the actual
average is.
Let's chat GPT it. Hey?
Chat GPT it. While you're doing that, I'm going to throw a curveball.
Shoot.
Is there anything that you regret spending your money on last year?
Ooh. Wait, are we just talking about healthcare?
Yeah. Not some Temu purchases.
What were we asking? What is
there
the
anything? Oh, yes.
average amount spent? Sorry.
In Australia
This is my like needing to
on healthcare?
healthcare by each individual.
You're typing with both thumbs and it's actually freaking me out right now.
Well, it's an iPad. It's big.
No, it's weird.
Things that I spent money on
that you regret.
I regret.
Healthcare. Like any wax supplements that you're like, that wasn't good.
See, I actually am going to say no, as weird as that is. So upon reflection, I feel like a lot of the stuff that I spent money on, I might not have needed. So for example, like the osteo, the massages, the TCM, like people would argue that like there's nothing necessarily wrong.
It's preventative.
That's kind of like, enticing me to go and see them. But for me personally, it was more a matter of actually going to see them on the front foot, so I didn't end up spending more money on anything, if that makes a bit of sense.
Like preventative health?
Yeah. So like trying to be a little bit on the front foot, preventative in the grand scheme of, right, like now I don't need to go and spend a stupid amount of money on my healthcare because I've cooked myself.
I think it speaks quite nicely to, I guess, what I've noticed the attitude is in the Australian population when it comes to healthcare. Like, again, we really want to acknowledge our privilege when it comes to having these funds available to spend on said services. But I do feel like there is a bit of an attitude of like, we only go and see someone or get something addressed when it's an issue and when it's impacting our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
And I think that's conversations changing a lot now. And like we've both spoken about the fact that we think that things are kind of changing here and there in that landscape, but it's not going to change overnight like
younger
that.
populations for sure.
But even then, like I think younger populations still need the message to kind of be banged home a little bit because I mean we're living in a world now with an aging population and like as a country we're spending a lot of money on healthcare. And I think as like a younger generation with a lot of these private health insurance companies or, like a lot of these private health or allied health interventions becoming more available to people, or more people are becoming more aware of the benefits of them,
Yeah.
I think it'll only continue to evolve that conversation more.
Yeah.
But here you go. Here's
got
the
a
stat.
stat.
Yeah. So so you spent roughly like 5.5. I spent roughly 5.5, and it said, and it doesn't have last year's estimation, but roughly in the 2021-2022 financial year, it was it just says Australia's total health expenditure was approximately $241.3 billion, averaging about 9.365, so 9,365 per person.
Jewish.
There
Okay.
you go. So, and I mean, that's only an average, so I'm sure there's people spending a lot more and people spending a lot less, and it kind of takes it
Averages out.
somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, right.
But there you go.
Interesting.
5.5.
Very, very interesting.
Very interesting.
So I
Very
guess
interesting.
that was 2024. Sounds
Yeah.
like there wasn't anything on either of our sides that we regret spending money on. But I think this year you and I were both talking off air and even at the start of today that we do want to be a little bit more intentional with where our money goes this year.
Yeah.
What are you prioritizing this year with your health?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I've already started to delve into that landscape a little bit more this year. I'm setting myself the personal goal of seeing Liz and the team up at the Dow kind of like once every 6 weeks. And that, again, that's just entirely as like a preventative approach. Liz and I have spoken about the fact that I've got some stuff personally, like whether it's stress or whether it's just wanting to optimize how my body actually feels.
Yep.
So I don't necessarily have anything wrong, but I'm just going to her for that kind of support in that realm.
Yep.
And just air a lot of stuff out, things like diet, food, exercise levels, like a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm just going there to use her as a bit of a soundboard and get some feedback on some of that stuff too.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
I think I'll definitely look to put more into that basket of the TCM stuff.
Yep.
And then in hand with that, try and work on finding some supplements. We were just talking before about Vitally.
Yeah, shout out to Vitally.
Shout out to Vitally. Trying to find some supplements that really resonate with me and that I'm happy to take, some kind of supplements that are well researched, and then making some small dietary changes around some other herbal stuff that kind of helps contribute to that overall wellness picture for me too.
Very nice.
And then I think making sure the body stays in check too. So still seeing osteo. I kind of cheat the system a little bit though, because
You can osteo
my partner's
yourself.
an osteo.
Oh, true.
I wish I could osteo myself. That'd
Well,
be
you
good.
live in a house full of osteos.
I do live in a house full of
There's
osteo.
4
So
of
full
you.
disclaimer, I kind of cheat the system a little bit.
Yeah.
But none of us really we kind of get home from work, and it's probably the last thing that I want to do is treat someone else in the
sure.
house.
Yeah.
Harry and Tegan are probably a lot better at treating people at home versus me and
Oh,
Gabby.
I don't think I'd be bothered either though.
We come home and I'm just like, nah, not touching anyone.
No, I want to switch off. Yeah.
So I think still into that kettle of fish would be, or into that kind of part of the puzzle too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the gym stuff's still going to be a really big part of my life this year, and I'll look to kind of ride that through. So spending the money on the gym membership.
Yep.
Even though it is quite expensive, or from the outside looking in, it looks pretty expensive. I think just the value and the variety you get at the gym that we're kind of at the minute.
I mean, it's pretty good. Like, it's obviously the gym, the classes, the recovery center, which whether it's a wank or not, it's good. We enjoy it. And it's a big social part too.
Yeah, social, but also just like mentally therapeutic. Like when I get in the sauna, Like I don't take my phone in there. Half the reason I don't take my phone in there is because I'm too scared that the phone's going to explode. But, like I get in there and you just sit in there, and it's like a bit of downtime, forced downtime,
Yep.
like disconnecting from anyone,
Yep.
whether or not, and like we've spoken to some people around like the
touted
effects of,
benefits.
the effects of the sauna, like regardless of what the physical impact is, I think for me, the mental side of things is really good. So
For sure.
yeah, spending the money on something like that, I suppose the fact that I'm kind of getting there like 4 to 5 times a week just for gym, and then on top of that doing some of the recovery, and then Wednesday morning Pilates.
Yep.
I think
Our Wednesday mornings.
love our Wednesday mornings. I think that that's still going to be a big part of my investment.
Lovely. So you got gym, TCM, osteo.
I suppose like trying to limit how much I'm as weird as that sounds, trying to limit how much I'm seeing the GP. I mean,
Mm.
I think I probably did the groundwork seeing my GP last year a lot, and he's great. I get along well with him and stuff. But I think now that I've got I suppose a bit of a team in my corner from that allied health side of things, unless anything unplanned takes place, it'll kind of be like trying to reduce the costs in that GP department.
Yeah, cool.
And maybe, just getting like some follow-up bloods done this year, and that is like a really nice way to round off like the health circle. Oh
my god!
actually forgot to say the other thing that I had
you
been
got
spending.
bitten by something just
No,
then.
the other thing that I've been spending money on is skin checks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which I completely forgot. So
Actually, same. I did that last year too.
yeah, I reckon last year I would have spent about $400, $500 on the dermatologist. So
My skin check was not as costly as I had anticipated.
mine was costly,
Oh,
so I won't say
really?
where I go.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I last year, because coming from Melbourne, my skin just doesn't hack it.
Little pasty
That's
boy.
a full thing.
Yeah. Fair.
Full thing, but no. I think the skin check side of things is always good too. Ideally, I'd probably just get there once this year instead of the twice.
Yep.
But I think it's always a good thing to just get done yearly.
Yep.
As well.
Actually,
especially seeing as we're in the sun a bit.
Yes, you've prompted me to think of something else I'm going to add into mine. Thank you.
Nice. What about you? How about you? Is there anything? I feel like that kind of rounds off my. I don't suppose I really have anything new on top of that outside of like the supplements side of thing that I really want to add to the expense list.
Yep.
What about you? Have you got anything?
I feel like if we had had this conversation a week ago, it would have looked very similar to 2024. But with some new, I saw my GP yesterday, and I've just got some things currently in the back burner in the works. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. I've got a few investigations underway just for some lady stuff. So look, I dare say that's going to take up a lot of my healthcare budget this year, which is not fun, but also needed, I think. So, and on top of that, what you prompted me was I really want to invest in a really good sunscreen.
Yes.
Yes. So I've got, like, I use sunscreen every day, but I want to invest in a really good one, like a mineral-based one. So if you have any recommendations.
Have you ever used Yucca?
No.
You got to get this app. All right, everyone,
All
pull out
the-
your phone, download
yes.
Yucca.
Yes.
It's really cool. I don't know what the the basis of it is. Maybe we can chat with someone from Yucca, but
Yep.
um
The chemical thing.
yeah, we've gone
Yeah.
and scanned a lot of them now.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Yep.
And I reckon the ultraviolet green lid one, whatever that one is,
Oh,
you
yeah.
should have a look at that one.
Yeah, people have recommended ultraviolet. I need to have a look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The yellow lid one doesn't rank as well.
Cozy.
Yeah, but the green lid one looks pretty good.
Yeah, right.
So there you go.
Okay. Thank
There
you.
go. There's a recommendation for you. You can investigate that.
Why, thank you. Yeah, good sunscreen, continuing with regular psych. GP, I imagine I'll just have to go back for a few times. Currently looking into like some things, and I do want to go invest this year in a TCM, an acupuncturist.
Yeah.
Because that's just been on my cards. It was on my cards last year, and then it just sort of ran out of time. So that's a big priority for me this year. There was one other one that just came to mind, but it's escaped me. I'm sure it'll come back. But that was it. So new ones this year would be good sunscreen, women's health investigations, sort of currently looking at like the fertility side of things, which is really fun. TCM, and also I want to invest in a good quality omega supplement.
Yeah, omega
Yeah,
supplement.
yep.
That's actually on my list of supplements. I've got omega 3s and or just like a general omega supplement and a magnesium.
Yeah. I've got a good magnesium. What's the black tub that we used to use? It tastes like strawberries and cream or
No
berry.
idea. No idea.
Pillar.
Oh, Pillar Performance.
Pillar. I really like their magnesium.
Yeah, actually I did just try their pineapple and there's a pineapple and I can't think of the other fruit. But it was very good. I was very impressed. And that was the first one I'd tried. My dad just randomly had it at home. He was like, "Oh yeah, I got it from the running shop down the road." And I was like,
I rate Pillar. They're really good. And I've been doing a bit of a deep dive into the research around like particular omega, like DHA to EPA ratios for just sort of overall health. So finding one or finding a supplement on the shelves that hits those sort of recommendations is really hard.
Yeah.
Like I think the only one that I've found so far is on iHerb or something like that. So yeah, that's going to be on my agenda this year.
Further investigating.
Further investigation. So look, I feel like saying that out loud and thinking about it all, it sounds like I'm investing in a whole lot more, but with that, I probably will pare back on some other things as well. And again, it's investing in long-term health. Like I think women's health and fertility isn't something that you necessarily muck around with.
Yeah. Random question, but last year, did you cap out on all your cover, like for your private health insurance?
No, I don't think so. Did you?
Almost.
Oh,
Almost. Yeah.
very nice.
I almost got to the end. I was like adamant on using it all.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And this is an interesting discussion. Do you think we overutilize or underutilize our private health? Like, do you reckon the general population would underutilize their private health insurance extras if they have extras? Because I know a lot of people will just get like hospital cover or things like
Yeah.
that. But for the people that have extras, do you think they underutilize it at all?
I think underutilized, just thinking that we rent a space out of a physiotherapist and the end of December is chaotic for people
Yeah.
booking in, trying to make the most of their extras cover.
Yeah.
What about you?
I would say under as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I consciously tried, and it was like, so we were talking off air before, and I think I said something along the lines of like, I saw an allied healthcare practitioner last year for 26 out of the 50, like literally half the weeks in the year I went and saw someone, and I still didn't use it all,
That's insane.
which is pretty nuts.
Yeah.
But, and again, like very privileged for the position that, like I can go out and use that extras cover and trial it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just an interesting thought because I was kind of like, oh, I wonder if like, like you were talking about having more in your kind of
Kitty for the year.
kitty for the year or more, you were having to spend a bit more on your healthcare this year. And I was like,
Yeah.
I wonder if like with some of the private health insurance, like it kind of peels some of it back a little bit here and there.
Yeah. And I guess sort of coming back to the whole thing around preventative health, like even though we are, I guess we sort of, both you and I have the biased lens of being in the healthcare industry and can see the value of it. Financially, we know it's obviously a good investment too from a, I guess, money saving perspective, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
So in Australia, do you want to give us the statistic?
No, you roll on
Oh,
through.
are you sure?
Yeah. I
Okay.
recken it's pretty cool.
It is very cool. I was very impressed when I read this.
Yeah, and because this is part from our conversation recently with Amelia as well.
Yeah. It was, I think it was Amelia that offered this, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for every dollar spent on preventative health in Australia, we save approximately $14.30 in healthcare and other costs.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
like that's 14 times. That's
Yeah.
insane.
It is nuts. And that's more like we were talking about the fact that if you spend the dollar to save the trouble later down the line,
Yeah.
that's the cost 14x's essentially, or
Yeah.
however many multiplies based on like getting the actual condition then having to deal with the condition,
Yeah.
which I often think about a lot. Like I feel like the amount of people that we see with low back pain who like will come in and they're not doing too much in the healthcare landscape,
Yeah.
then they end up coming to see us like for 6 sessions, 7 sessions, 8 sessions on the premise that they want to get like really good,
Yeah.
or they end up having to like shortfall themselves a little bit and then they have to come and see us like if it flares up again later down the line.
And I remember early days when we had Chapo on the pod. So back in 2023? Yeah, that's insane. I remember him was like him, good English me. He was talking about the huge discrepancy between like our life expectancy and I don't know if this is the correct terminology, but like our health expectancy. And there's a massive gap between the two. Like the last years of our life aren't necessarily spent in good health.
Yeah, they're spent chasing the 4 horsemen or kind of trying to reduce the impact of the 4 horsemen that Amelia kind of had spoken about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty.
If you didn't believe us, like let those statistics speak for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that shapes the kind of purpose of today's conversation, especially towards those, and I suppose more of our listener base, like some of the younger people that are jumping onto the podcast and having a listen, who kind of think, oh, there's nothing wrong with me at the minute. I don't need to go out and like kind of do anything.
Yeah.
It's more kind of like to try and prompt you to think a little bit about how much you actually are investing in your own health. You know, like you said at the start, we spend so much money on things like travel, on clothes, on nights out, beers, you know, like the little luxuries in life.
Yeah.
But rarely do we think about, like, you know, and for me and you as the example, you know, two humans kind of in their late 20s, rarely do we sit there and go, right, you know, like,
This
what
is
am I
setting me
doing
up
for my health?
the rest of my
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
Late 20s, that stings.
Stings. Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
And look, if you listening have anything that you want to share what you're prioritizing on in your life and with your health, let us know. Like, we do really want to hear from you. We might even put up, you know, some of the most common responses if you guys actually do reach out. So please feel free to email us or jump into our DMs, comment on the episode below on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well, or even on YouTube if you're listening over there. That would be much appreciated.
And if you disagree, I would be really interested to
Yeah.
don't feel like this is the only way. Like I said, we're absolutely in a privileged position.
And we have a biased view because we work in the industry.
Yeah. But yeah, I can absolutely see the arguments for, you know, saving the money if you don't need the healthcare. I just think there's so many more arguments for the
I was
other,
going to say,
is
yeah.
yeah.
But
Well,
let
I
us
mean, you
know.
know, like positional, situational. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to hear from you. We want this to be a bit of a discussion,
Yeah.
not just from
I'd
the
be
two of us.
curious to see the points in the disagree department.
Yeah, and look, there's no right way to do it either. Like, healthcare looks different to everybody. Like, even
Exactly.
talking to you, you've invested in things that I wouldn't necessarily invest in, and I'm sure vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
very good.
Thanks, team. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast.
Be the first to know when the next episode drops by hitting subscribe on wherever you catch your podcasts.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at we don't know yet.pod.
See ya.